Welcome to the Gleeful Meeple, a podcast all about board games where strategy meets laughter and a little liquid encouragement might just be what your raid needs. In this episode, we're joined by a special guest to talk about the ins and outs of hosting the best game nights. We return to ancient history in this week's game of the show, Raiders of Scythia. And you, the Gleeples, get to play along as the hosts get put in the hot seat with this week's game challenge. So hire your best crew, prepare your noble steed, and stock up on those rations for the long journey ahead. We've got raiding to do. Hey, fellow raiders.
Hey.
Hey, James.
This is James.
I'm Emily.
This is Dwayne.
Hello, this is Daryl.
And I'm JK, and I want to say happy birthday to Andy and Rory.
Happy birthday, Andy and Rory.
Yep.
I don't know who that is.
They're my cats.
Oh, happy birthday,
delightful.
JK's cats.
Yeah, they don't listen to the show, so they're never going to hear this.
Oh, I was picturing them with little cat headphones on over their ears.
It would be cute. Yeah.
Like the DJ style one?
It would be like a Meowcast.
A Meowcast.
Meowcast. Did you know we were talking about this earlier? Emily is apparently possibly going to make a guest appearance on someone else's podcast.
Oh, I don't want this to be banter.
Shenanigans. Shenanigans.
And I was surprised to learn that this is an open relationship. We're actually in a polycast.
I'm uncomfortable. How about a riddle, guys?
Okay.
That should solve this problem that was created.
Redirect.
What's the riddle, James?
A time in the day when politics play a greater game than the game being played. Time in the day to see the sun rise. Win or lose, the sunset will be in your eyes.
Twilight Struggle.
A multiplier times 3 times
Twilight
4.
Imperium.
No, nice. Well done.
Spread yourself too thin and your race will be no more.
That was fast, JK. Good job.
Did you catch the part about the sunset in the west?
No. Oh. Do we need to tell that story now?
JK doesn't know his cardinal direction.
No,
he does.
At one time.
He does.
I do. At one time, in a work situation, we got into a considerable debate over what cardinal directions the sun rose and set. And I knew for a fact it rose in the east, but somehow in my head, I had convinced myself that due to rotation of the earth, that it set in the south because the earth turns. It goes at an angle. It couldn't be east-west. And foolishly, I'm wrong. So don't, use a science book. Teach your kids well. Hey, we got another voice here today. So we've had a run of some guest speakers on the show, some guest appearances, and we have brought with us today Daryl.
Hi, Daryl.
Hello.
Hi, Daryl.
Welcome.
Hello, or for the Spanish speakers, hola.
Ooh. Are we subtitled? Do we have a translation?
We do not have a
Did I just give you guys
transcript
a homework assignment?
or
Yes.
translation
Our tech support team will figure that out.
eventually.
Daryl, I know you're reasonably recent to Gleeful Meeple.
I am.
How long have you been around?
The first event that I actually met you at, JK, was Black Abbey, we'll call it early December.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have you been in Nashville longer than that?
I moved here on Cinco de Mayo last year. It's very easy to remember.
Okay. So May to December. I got to ask, what took you so long?
That's a great question. It is awkward silence.
Yeah, why were you avoiding us, Daryl?
It's because of Emily. Anyways,
Whoa!
How did you find us?
just meet up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When it starts, it's like, cool, board games. They're like, oh, here's a fun group. I'm like, yes. But going to the first event, it's like, oh, there's only like 4 people RSVP'd on the app. Like, whatever. And then I get there and it's like, we filled out this bar.
Yeah, we're very bad about RSVPing for events. And when I say we, I mean me.
The longest running members.
Yeah. Yeah.
The OGs.
Where did you move here from?
Denver.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Daryl, were there any other board game communities that you looked at in the Nashville area before you joined Gleeful Meeple?
There was not actually. I was just like, oh, that's cool. There's an event tonight. I'm going. Like, it was minimal thought.
I feel like if nothing else, we have more events than other local groups. I
That's
see
for
some
sure.
that do.
Yes.
I think that's a very safe.
That's how we have taken Nashville.
Yeah.
Volume.
And I do think that is like a common experience, Daryl, of like, I'm just gonna see this. What's up? Like, we have a lot of just people in their 20s and 30s, like just looking for something to do, and they just come across us and are like, I'm gonna try this out.
Before we get into Daryl's topic and the reason we brought him in, I've got some breaking board game industry news for you.
Oh, let's yeah. Oh, hot off the wire. Nice.
How do you guys feel about Cards Against Humanity?
I mean, talk about an icebreaker. That's an ice crusher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I got into that. I feel like even before I got into craft board gaming, that might have preceded it by a little while. Once I started going out to a lot of the breweries and places around here, because they all had a copy.
And that's what, like, I feel like if you played Apples to Apples in your childhood, like I did, Cards Against Humanity was the next step in college.
Yeah. And so I kind of became a fan. I was genuinely shocked to see that here was this game that was, utterly offensive in many cases. There it is at Target, just right on the shelf. That kind of blew my mind that you could buy it there. One of the things that they were known for in their early years, and it may have still continued, I'm just not following them as closely as I once did, is they would have annual little pranks and trollish things that they would do. They supported Black Friday and the anti-communer. What word am I looking for here?
Consumerism,
anti-consumerism, by saying if you sent them $5, they would send you a box of bull poop. And the idea behind it was that you didn't know what you would get. And lo and behold, come Black Friday, you got a box of bull poop.
Literally.
I'll save you some editing there, James. There you go.
I didn't even know you could send that through USPS. I was shocked.
Yeah. But they'd had several promotions over the course of time. One of them was a kind of politically minded one where they were wanting their fans to send in $15. And if they amassed $150,000, they bought a plot of land along the Mexico-Texas border. They pulled it off. They got it. They bought the plot of land, and on their website they posted pictures of this very fertile open plain. And I kind of forgot about it and thought that's where it ended. There's been an update to this story.
What happened, JK?
Yeah. So apparently the county where they bought the land in is also the area where Elon Musk is building a new SpaceX facility. And he has, unfortunately, been depositing a lot of trash and a lot of construction equipment and a lot of materials on the land that Cards Against Humanity owns on behalf of their fans. They were not happy about this, and they sent him a cease and desist letter and said, get your stuff off of our land. Reportedly,
get your poop off of our land.
Yeah. Reportedly, his response was to send a very cursory, no, I'm gonna leave it where it is, and I'm gonna offer you this amount of money to buy the land anyway, which was less than what they paid for it. Cards Against Humanity has announced that they are suing Elon Musk for $15 million.
Amazing.
And the idea behind it is, should this go through, should they win the lawsuit and get that $15 million, they're going to evenly divide it over everybody that submitted to that campaign in the first place. A return on investment of $100 for their $15 investment.
Nice.
And you showed me pictures of this. It is not an insignificant amount of trash. It's not like trash bags. I mean, it is
it's
like
construction equipment
construction
and buildings.
materials.
Yeah, they have destroyed the land that it's on pretty much. That's all I got.
Little adjacent card game news.
Yeah. So the reason why we brought Daryl here today, as Dwayne mentioned earlier with our gaming communities, there are several in Nashville. We have a couple of them, one being Rick and his Game Point crew, who run a twice yearly big event called TGD. We've got Meeple Mountain that runs a once a year annual thing called Tabletop Day. We have several different groups, Gleeful Meeple included, that run either monthly or weekly events. Quite honestly, I think we're doing the weekly events just about better than anybody else in the city. I think we own we own that demographic pretty well.
Horn.
100%.
But then outside of events, there's certainly other places you can game, and one place that it obviously makes sense is in the comfort of your own home.
Wait, you can gather around a table in your home?
Homes have
and
tables.
Be social in your home?
What about apartments? I'm a millennial.
Yes, you can do apartments. You may need a smaller table.
Or the floor.
Or the floor. That's fine.
I have done that before.
I have done that before too.
And when this topic came up, we said, yeah, we can talk about that. I have game nights all the time. I bring people over to the house all the time, but I've been doing it for so long that I think I've kind of taken it for granted. I don't greet you guys at the door. I don't welcome you with arms open. I say, hey, you know which room I'm going to be in. Come find me. and so maybe, we've kind of stepped it down to the point where it's more of a, just go to the location and play games. But having a board game event at your house can be a big deal, and it can be well orchestrated. It can be poorly orchestrated. So Daryl's here to give us some tips.
I got all the tips, tricks, stories. What went well, what did not go well.
Yeah, because the last thing you want is to invite a bunch of guests over to your home for a fun night.
And then you end up playing Cards Against Humanity.
Yes. Or Ark Nova.
Oh yeah,
that's fun for some people. I hear. I don't understand those people, but
to bring them over and then you might not even realize it, but maybe someone leaves with a subpar experience and they don't come back.
That's the last time they show up.
Yeah, they show up and you're like, I thought I was doing everything right, but some things are obvious and some things aren't, and it's nice to have some insight.
Daryl, what do you do in advance of having people over to your house?
I take them for burritos usually.
Yes.
Dwayne's been there. Emily's been there. Once a month, I run at my place what I call burritos and board games. Spoiler alert, there's burritos and board games.
Okay.
And wonderful place where I live. Take everybody there. You get your burrito, whatever you're looking for. Get that. Then we all go to my place. And
their breakfast burritos are really good.
They are fire.
Yes.
Indeed.
And as I'm looking around, I was like, James, JK, you've not graced us for this yet.
Wow, I like Mexican food and board games.
Yeah.
Where have I been?
Yeah.
Where have we been?
Yeah.
But no, I run that every month and start off with food. That way everybody's happy. Because it does
fed.
start at 9 a.m. on a Sunday, which that's the challenging part.
Okay.
Board gaming on an empty stomach can
burrito
lead
at
to
9 a.m.?
chaos.
Breakfast burritos.
Breakfast burrito.
Breakfast burritos.
Okay.
Eggs, cheese, bacon, just in a tortilla instead
It's
of like a
everything
bagel.
you'd have with a normal breakfast, except you've wrapped it in a tortilla, which, isn't that... I mean, James, listen, I eat pancakes for breakfast, okay? Or tortilla isn't going to push me over the line.
Are you saying tortilla is a Mexican pancake?
I wasn't saying that.
I was like, I don't think that's what he was trying to get at.
Sure, why not?
Isn't that flan?
So you promise your guests with tasty food,
Yes.
spoil them before you've even started gaming.
Bribe them before.
Yeah.
That's how you get them in the house.
No, like if you have an empty stomach and if you have a full stomach and you're angry, like what is wrong with you?
That is definitely on you.
100%.
Okay.
But no, so start that, feed everybody. And then I'm fortunate to have a wonderful layout where I can fit 20 people in my apartment.
Ooh.
Dwayne helped me figure out how to shift the table so like we can make it work.
Okay.
It's very impressive, actually.
So you're doing multi-tables, different
Multi-tables, yep.
Daryl, I got tickled because the reason why I helped make it work is like, I want to play Grand Austria Hotel. I'm going to figure out a way to make this happen.
Give me that table.
No, that's what he did too. No, he was very self-serving, but it helped me in the long run, so I'm here for it.
How do you determine what games you're going to play?
So for the first one, it was just kind of like, freestyle. Most of you know each other. You can figure this out.
Okay.
So yeah, we had two big tables, dining table, seat 6. Then I have a felt top poker table that'll, depending on how close you want to get, we'll call it 8 people. So you can play some big games on there, or you can play 2 small games, depending on the crowd, etc. And then I've got like a little fold-out poker table for a smaller game. So with that, it comes down to time commitment, I think, on some of the games, because it's like, if you want to take over a whole table, for a 4-hour game, it's like, how many people are going to play that 4-hour game is the challenge. Mm-hmm. Because, if you take over a table for 4 people, it's like, cool, I've got 16 other people I have to fit on 2 tables. The logistics is rather difficult on that.
Okay.
So that's the challenge. I think the biggest thing is just communication, like set expectations with people.
Do you, and I'll ask this to the whole table, do you prefer to have a game in mind and announce what we're going to be playing ahead of time, or surprise and debate once people get there?
For a bigger event, like when I have everybody over for burritos and board games, just freestyle it, see what happens, see what flows. If I was doing a smaller event, something like here, I'd be like, hey, we're playing X game. Who wants to get in on it?
Okay.
That way you can have like 4 or 5 people locked in for the time commitment. That makes sense.
There's a really interesting website that I found years and years ago. I've never used it because I felt like, no, people aren't going to want to get locked into that. But it's called Board Game Menu. And what you do is you punch in how many players are coming to your house, and it goes and looks at your BGG collection and picks an appetizer game, which is something light, and then a meatier game for the middle, and then something like a palate cleanser at the end, and prints out on this menu, nice little format to show what you're playing.
Well, that's fun.
It does seem fun, but I'd be afraid that I'd have everybody over and like, okay, we're going to start with Love Letter, and then the next game is Arc Nova, and half the people go, I'm dipping out. After
I'm
Love
out.
Letter.
Bye.
I'm going to go find something else to do.
I think that's one of those things, though, in advance, if you advertised it like that and you're like, hey, I've got an idea for a board game day. Here's what we'll be doing. Who's interested? That's a great way to get players in who know what they're playing and are excited about what they're going to play.
Yeah.
And I try to do that at least like when there is something kind of crunchy that I want to get off the shelf and I'm like, I know, I'll host a board game day. I will let people know when I send the invite out, hey, I am hoping to get this game played on this day. And that way they come in with an expectation that, it would be nice if we could make that happen.
One of the things I've struggled with when I'm hosting games at my house is I'll have 3 different tables set up. Typically, when I see that first wave of people arrive, there's usually a crunchy game that will hit one of those tables, whether it's out of my collection or one of our friends, Travis or Ryan or Mark, brings something heavy. And then the other 2 tables kind of venture into lighter fare. And then, unfortunately, what I've seen happen from there is when you've got a heavy game, a lighter, they're all wrapping up at different times. So the people you sit down at that first table with, those are the people you're paired with for the rest of the day. And I haven't been able to find a good way to kind of move people around if they want to, or spread the love around. Have you encountered that in your gatherings, and what do you do?
At that point, I'm like, either very quick games that you can just drop in and out of for a second to kind of get everybody on the same time schedule, or we're very fortunate to have a good group of people that are like, okay, just treating it as a social event for a minute. They're like, we're not playing a game. That's fine. Let's talk about life and everything else that comes with it. So it's not awkward to be like, hey, we're just going to stand here for 30 minutes and chat.
Yeah. I think the last get together I had at my house, I had 4 tables set up for the first time. And the 4th table all of a sudden turned into the snack table, which wasn't intended. And then probably, 5 or 6 people were constantly sitting around the snack table just chatting. I was like, do y'all want to play a game? They're like, no, we're great. We're good over here. So
the snack table is a very fun game for what it's worth.
Yeah.
I think that is the dynamics of game nights y'all have said it a couple of times, but the expectations of who's coming. Like, is this a game day, game night where it's just like, it's all about the games, if someone showed up and, spent, 45 minutes not gaming because of the timing of things, they would be frustrated.
Yeah.
Or is it a game gathering that is also meant to be, somewhat social, and is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
And I think that gets tougher and tougher the larger the group gets, where you can't please everybody. But if there's the general expectations set ahead of time about what kind of day it's meant to be, because I could totally see a gamer, quote unquote, being invited to a game day, and then they show up and they're like sitting around for 45 minutes. Oh my gosh, I'm out of here.
They showed up 30 minutes later than everybody else, so now they're out of it for 2 hours.
Yeah. It's like, man, that stinks. So yeah, just communication is probably the biggest thing when you're going to have a lot of people.
Yeah. Communication and just setting expectations. Like if you're running a bigger, crunchier, heavier game, like, hey, this is going to be a long game. You're in for the ride. Could be 2 hours, could be 6 hours, whatever, right? But if you have a bigger group, I'm very fortunate the people that do come over for burritos and board games. We all see each other typically several times throughout the month anyways. So there's no social awkwardness of like, I don't know these people. Who are they? It's like, no, all of us know everybody. And we can all pick up and vibe off that energy of like, oh, they're busy. I'm going to go talk to JK over here for a minute. And it's not going to be weird. Like you said, there were most events where somebody's like odd man out. It's like, no, it's like, we know everybody.
Yeah.
So you mentioned feeding people on the front end with the burritos, but if they're there all day, what's your plan of attack for snacks? And do you provide them all? Do you ask your guests to help provide them? What's the way you approach feeding folks throughout the day?
Okay, I have very specific rules on snacks here.
It's very specific.
It is very specific.
I'm scared I asked now.
Okay.
Or glad I asked.
No Cheeto dust.
None. Cheeto dust gets everywhere. From Doritos, Cheetos, doesn't matter. Just gets on everything. So don't bring those in.
So no dusty snacks.
No dusty
is what
snacks.
you're saying.
Keep it outside. It is the worst. When it comes to candy, majority of it's fine, but especially like hard shelled candies are the best. Unless you lose them, then like, oh, there's a melted M&M somewhere. That's unfortunate. But like hard candies, like no silly string or
Silly string.
not silly string.
The sour straws?
Yeah, because those have the sugar. They get everywhere. Like hard one-piece candies that are fairly resilient.
So nothing that can contaminate your fingers and transfer over to a board game.
Exactly. There's nothing worse than you're like playing a game with somebody and they do something. You're like, oh, there's a perfectly cast thumbprint of the oil off your finger from all the snack.
Oh, just no. I mean, so here, okay, side tangent. Those of us that bring games to our events, have you ever sat down at a game at a venue that also serves food, and somebody at your table orders food and they begin to enjoy themselves, and you look around and you don't see any napkins anywhere, and fear goes through your hearts about what is about to happen to your game.
Yep. I have kind of resigned myself to the fact that I know any game that I bring to our events could be destroyed at any time. So the good high quality stuff that's never going to come out in public. That's going to stay home. And we've had events at places that have greasy burgers, pasta that they're flinging everywhere, and
red sauce is all over those cards.
Oh my gosh.
That's what
It's like a murder scene.
The last event I hosted, I was trying to get players for a game and noticed someone was like waiting on food. And so I'm asking the person who's about to set up a game, I'm like, is this food friendly? Because it's like, I know whenever I'm eating food, like either right before playing a game or while, I'm like, one hand is for food and one hand is for the game.
Yes. Yep. And even some of our venues, we go a lot of places that serve nice frosty cold beer, and when those glasses are coming in with the condensation dripping off of them, and they're handing it across the game to the person at seat 4, and I'm
it's
like,
happy, slow motion, drip off the bottom of the glass. Yes.
That's probably my biggest struggle is making sure tables are dry from condensation, and making sure everyone has napkins or coasters to help out with that problem.
And you try to kindly and respectfully hand them out to everybody and hope they get the gist.
yeah.
I'm not even kind about it. I'm like, there's coasters for a reason.
So what we're saying with this whole grand thought is when you have gatherings at your house, paper towels, coasters, please use them. Yes. Back to snacks.
Yes. Resilient candies, no chips with the dust, like keep it simple, keep it clean. If you want like salsa or stuff, cool, don't bring it on the table. Because you're one bump of the salsa bowl from ruining whatever game's out there.
So if you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's the day before, all these people are going to show up at your house. We got food covered, we got breakfast, got the snack game happening. What else is on that list of things that you're like, okay, what do I need to do to make sure people have a good time? What are you getting settled and taken care of?
I'm going to backtrack to snacks real quick for one good call out. I'm very much the person who's like, oh my God, I hope nobody has like peanut allergies because I don't want to be the reason they have an issue.
Oh, yeah.
So I always ask is there any allergies I need to be aware of, like peanut or similar?
That's a great one.
Yes.
I hadn't thought of that. I may have actually killed somebody at my house at a previous event. Who knows?
Whoa.
It could have happened.
What do you mean, who knows? I helped you bury the body.
Okay.
Allegedly. But yeah, no, being aware of like, I don't have any food allergies. And so I feel like that's something I overlook a lot.
Same.
And that's just so rude. If you're a person with food allergies, it's like, it's just being accommodated for can just make a space that much more welcoming and inviting.
We've also got a number of people in our group that this has kind of been a recent twist, but we've got some vegans and vegetarians, and it's not in my wheelhouse. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. There's not, but
so if beef jerky is your only snack option,
I'm sure I have
might need
eggs
to
in just
expand.
about every cookie that I have in the house, so that's not going to work.
And I'm sure people that have food allergies or are vegan, vegetarians, and just eat in specific ways are used to providing meals for themselves because they're used to going around and, that not being catered to. But it probably does mean a lot if the host of where you're going has had some forethought on that and is working to provide that. Yeah. I mean, talk about impressing somebody and, make them feel welcome. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm. So a little forethought goes so far and just really helps out a good experience before they even get there.
So I imagine you're spending time getting it all cleaned up, organized, right? The apartment and the house. And what else is on that list? The I's and the T's getting dotted and crossed.
Music? Background music?
Yeah, music. Usually got some electronic in the background, like quiet, nice little mood music, but it's not like going to put you to sleep.
No Motorhead?
No, I mean,
Okay.
it's on the vibe. Like,
All right.
my music selection is equal opportunity, so it's not off the table. It's just
All right.
not in the primary rotation. Yeah, just thinking forward, good background music. And me, I very much set the expectation like, hey, I'm kind of a free range friend. Like, I'll show you where everything is the first time.
Yeah.
After that, you can get it on your own. Or if something's missing, please let me know. But yeah, very much that.
I'm bad host.
Yeah.
Just find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know where it is. You've been here before.
So you've done this event like 3 times, I think, so far.
3 months in a row, yeah.
What were some of the lessons learned that you took from like one event to the next one?
First event, somebody took over my kitchen table for a 5-player game of Root, which left a lot of us to try and fit on the other 2 tables.
Ooh.
So if if it's a smaller group and we have the space, bring out the crunchiest game you want. I don't care. But like at the top of an event with like 20 people, like let's maybe shelve that one for a second because it can only play 4, 5, 6 people, whatever it was.
Right.
For a long time.
Yeah.
For a number of hours. Yeah.
Exactly. That locked up my kitchen table for 4 hours. Minimum.
Isn't that the biggest table? Is that the 6-person table?
It's pretty comparable to my poker table.
Okay.
So, but it still takes.
But you're
up a
talking
whole
15
table.
people for 2 other tables.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah.
So that's the challenge.
You need to get.
So it's like you have the master just one game going on.
You need to get like 5 people playing Happy Salmon off in the living room.
Yeah. Or
No table
outside.
required.
Take that
Outside.
outside. That is an outdoor game.
And one of the most important questions that comes up for me at almost every one of my game nights. Hopefully, you can help us with this. How do I get these people to leave?
I'm one of those people who like at the last Burritos and Board Games, I was like, cool, we're starting at 9 a.m. Y'all can hang out until you get tired and leave, or 6 p.m., whichever comes first.
Okay.
I mean, they have songs you can play that help it
Close the
facilitate
time.
that.
Like banana phone.
Banana phone. Yeah.
Or closing time. Whichever.
Yeah.
I feel like meal times are a good,
Good break point.
yeah. Because it's like, once again, going back to setting expectations, it's like, all right, we are meeting as a group to go get burritos in the morning. Lunch can be just like snacking all day. I'm not giving you dinner. Get your own dinner and don't come back.
I think at my last gathering when we broke for dinner, that was kind of the end of the night. We probably lost 40%, maybe 50 of the group at that point.
Yeah, because it's like board gamers. Sometimes you hit the mix of like extroverted people or introverted people, or just like socially awkward, don't know when to leave.
Yeah. A lot of times I like to do what I call the Mexican send-off, where I stand up and say, hey, everyone, let's go out for Mexican.
It's even better if like you're leaving the restaurant and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go to the movies. Like, have fun with the rest of your evening, guys.
So are we going back? Are we going back to play games?
Nope.
No, what part of
I don't
Mexican
think so.
send-off did you not understand? This is where it ends.
Yes, I am going back home. You are not. You are not going to my home.
You can
You're
go
going to
anywhere
your
you
home.
want.
Yes.
I think the best way to do that is to like if you as the host know that in 2 hours you want the night to be over, say it then, not when it's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey guys, let's go like 2-3 more hours and maybe aim for such and such time or something like
Yeah.
that. That way it's kind of in people's heads. They don't feel pressured in the moment. And
Yeah.
it's always been a good way to do it that I've found.
Put that campaign for North Africa back in the
Yes.
box.
Yes.
That is not happening.
My problem is not the extroverted or introverted energy. My problem is that I have no real understanding of my own energy levels.
Yeah.
And at 8 o'clock when I go, hey, let's fire up Rock Band and play for another 4 hours. An hour later, I'm going, oh no, I'm exhausted. I'm done. Oh, now I need to politely end that invitation.
8 o'clock you is not the same as 9 o'clock you.
Yeah.
You hide it well. You always look amazingly energetic and
Why,
ready
thanks.
to go.
It's
11 o'clock.
Fake caffeine. Yeah, that's fake energy.
So we got to consider feeding people. We got to consider not inviting too many people that we can actually fit them in the space.
How to get them to leave.
We have to consider time. Yeah, how to get them to leave.
What's the thermostat at?
Anything we haven't covered.
Temperature.
Oh yeah, apartment temperature. When you get a bunch of people in a tiny space, it does warm up. So whenever I do that, I'm like, cool. The air conditioner is going on a really low number because the people in there is going to offset it. It'll be comfortable.
Fans.
Yeah.
So maybe an
fans.
hour ahead of time, bump it down to get it ready.
My approach is like, hey, we're going to burritos. I'm going to turn that down. By the time we get back, it'll be
Nice.
fine.
Nice.
See, burritos is
It
multi-purpose.
serves so many purposes.
Yeah.
It's the setup for the whole day.
It is. It really is.
Burritos, the glue of the day.
Well, sounds like a pretty successful game, Dave. You can kind of check off all those boxes and make it an inviting place to be.
Yeah, for sure.
It is.
We've given you some tips. Don't feel afraid to invite your friends over, break out a couple games, and have a good time on your own. Daryl, thank you for joining us for this segment. I think we're going to bring you back at the end of the show for our game challenge, if that's correct.
That is correct.
Okay.
Prepare yourself.
Ooh.
I am prepared. I don't know what it is, but I am prepared.
All right.
Hashtag challenge accepted.
This episode's game of the show is Raiders of Scythia. Raiders of Scythia is published by Garfield
Garfield.
Games, not Garp Hill Games. That took a few minutes. We had some discussion about that. It was designed by Shem Phillips. Oh, that's why it's Phillips.
Phillips.
There we
Wow.
go.
There you go.
Oh, it's all coming together now. Art was by Sam Phillips, and it was released in 2020. Raiders of Scythia usually plays 1 to 4 players, but it's at its most gleeful with 3 players. JK, walk us through Raiders of Scythia.
Raiders of Scythia is a re-implementation of Raiders of the North Sea, which came out a few years earlier from Garfield. It is a worker placement game in which you start with 1 worker in your possession and a board that has a number of zones you can go to with that worker. The main zone, the one you're going to use most frequently throughout the game, is your village. And there are a number of worker placement spots that do a variety of things, from getting you different components that you'll need throughout the game to allowing you to select new crew members for your war tribe. Once you have the appropriate components, you start working through progressively harder and harder villages to raid. You'll cash in some of those components, roll some dice to see whether you've done enough damage to walk away unscathed, and reap the rewards of doing so. This will continue until a player hits the end game condition, which is, James?
Either there are only 2 spaces with quest tokens on them, or there are 2 spaces left to be raided.
Okay. You will then look at the various point scoring conditions to see how it finished out, along with some of the goal tiles that you've unlocked throughout the game, and see who wins. You like raiding, but you're not a fan of Vikings? Check out Raiders of Scythia.
Okay, I'm going to jump immediately into this because after James did the teach when we played and he showed us how the worker placement works, I was immediately fascinated because this worker placement game, which is a genre that I absolutely love, does something that I have never seen.
It does, yeah.
And that is where not only you have you have 1 worker, and you only ever have 1 worker available to you in this game. You take that 1 worker, you put it on a space, you get the goods from that space, or the action from that space. And then you look at the board and you get to pull a meeple, not the one you just pulled off. You get to pull that worker off, and you get the action for the space that you just removed the worker from. That mechanic alone, I was in hard from the beginning on this game.
Yeah, I really
happens at
liked that
top-
mechanic.
Yeah, that happens at that top section of the village where all the different actions are. When you choose to raid, once you pull off the raid, you get one of the workers from the raided area as well. That's your replacement worker.
Yeah, that's what, like, usually worker placements, like, as I've mentioned before, kind of make me nervous. Like, they scare me. Like, I don't like it. But the fact that, like, I could take one and then I can grab one and then I get both of those actions, that was very exciting in the early game and a little bit frustrating in the end game, which we can get to
Agreed.
in a second.
Yeah, the place a worker, take a worker was pretty... I mean, I think this is the only game that had done it when it first came out, and I still don't think it's been done again since then. I don't even know if Garfield themselves have reused it again. But it allows the game to be pretty approachable, I think.
Yeah.
It really simplifies. For worker placements can be pretty complicated sometimes, but the fact that you only have 1 worker you're worrying about, technically you're worrying about 2 because you're thinking about what's the second one I'm going to pull off, but on your turn, it's not very overwhelming. And so I've always thought of the Raiders of the North Sea original game, and then this one kind of, as a byproduct of that, as a not quite my first worker placement game, but a great introduction to that genre of gaming because it's pretty easy to get into.
One of the most frustrating things for me when playing a worker placement game is when your turn is coming up and the player immediately before you goes to the location where you had intended to go all along. This game kind of mitigates that because even if there is a worker in the spot that you intended to go, you're going to pull that one back and still get that action.
Yes, I think that's why it sold it for me because that's one of my most infuriating moments of regular worker placement games.
Yeah, now that you bring it up, I'm thinking like, okay, typically in a 4-player worker placement game, I have 2 actions. I need both of them, but I'm going to take the one I need the most, right? And then it starts to go around, and JK takes his action. He doesn't take what I wanted. Great. Then James takes his action. Uh-oh, we're almost there. James didn't take the one I needed either. And then Emily, right before I take my turn, takes the action I need. And that is not a problem in this game. In fact, when you see it happen, you're like, ooh, now I get 2 things that I want.
Yeah.
Now, it does become a bit more difficult because I'm not sure who it was that alluded to it a moment ago, but the more workers unlock as you play the game. So you start with basic workers, and there's
different workers, not more. You don't. It's always only one worker that you have in your possession.
Correct.
Right? Am I thinking about that right? Okay.
Yes, yeah. You always only ever have one, but I would say there's you rotate out your basic worker for eventually a higher level. Let's call it worker,
like a manager or middle manager, something like that.
And it starts off super simple because all the workers in the beginning you can go to most locations. But what JK didn't mention is that in the village, those worker placement spots, some of them are restricted to certain levels of worker. A couple of them you don't actually unlock until you start getting them out from the raids. But that tension does come back from not being able to do what you do later in the game, not being able to do what you want to do, later in the game.
Because you've got the wrong level.
Because you have the wrong level worker. Yeah. So it almost becomes not more restrictive later, but it does change the restrictions, I think, as the games evolve.
It definitely does, because it's the lower level workers you can use for the first quote-unquote level of raiding, but that'll still leave some leftovers to stay in the town. And so that's where I was running into towards our end game, where I'm like, okay, I need either of the higher level workers, and the actions I have to take are going to cause me to end up with a lower level worker. And it's like, okay, well, now I have to wait 2 turns to try to do the thing I was trying to do originally.
I'm thinking about this level of worker thing, and here's what's concerning to me because, we start off with the blue workers are what we call the basic workers, right? And then eventually I'm going to go raid a location, and I get another worker from that location. Guys, these may not be workers. They may be prisoners of war.
Could be conscripted to our army.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You want your freedom? Go on a raid. Earn your freedom.
Oh.
Well, the original theme of this game was Vikings raiding towns. So it's not exactly purporting to be a kind, warm and fuzzy theme.
I remember asking, because there's like a wound mechanic in here where your raiders, your cards of raiders can gather wounds, and I was building kind of an army of like horses and eagles in my tableau as well, and I asked if I could wound my horse and was met with shock and disgust.
Why would you even ask anything like that?
I mean, I understand, but it's if my horse has a health level, I don't.
To my cats that I said happy birthday to, Emily is no longer welcome in the house. We'll
no,
keep her
I
away
love cats. I do love animals.
If you are
don't
the
take
victim
this
of
the
a
wrong
home
way,
invasion,
listeners.
Emily's going to pick up a cat and use it like a shield. My goodness.
So I have some familiarity with Raiders of the North Sea. We've talked on this show. I'm a big fan of Garfield games. I like what they do. I like pretty much all of their trilogies, with maybe the exception of the back half of the North Sea trilogy. When you brought this out, I expected it to be just a reskinned version with art that wasn't by the Miho, who does the art for everything that Garfield puts out. I was pleasantly surprised to see there's more to this game than Raiders of the North Sea. How did Scythia differ from the North Sea games?
Yeah, so Scythia brings in what Garfield did is they essentially took the original Raiders of the North Sea, which had 3 expansions released for it, and took some of the best things out of those expansions and added it to the base game to beef it up a little bit. And then they rethemed it. And they actually rethemed it. This is the game that launched what they call their Ancient Anthology series, which is why it's different artwork. It's Sam Phillips, actually Shem's brother, that does all the art, but he does all the art for the Ancient Anthology series. So Hadrian's Wall.
It looks an awful lot like Hadrian's Wall.
Same artist.
Ezra Nehemiah.
Legacy of You.
But he does the art for all of those. Oh,
yeah, and they're all intentionally a part of the. They pick ancient civilizations, ancient stories, and build games around those. Ezra Nehemiah is part of that as well. But they took that the 3 expansions, took the best things out of them, and the 3 big things that they added for Raiders of Scythia were the animals. So you can bring in horses or hawks and add those to your crew.
They're hawks, yeah.
Yep, and add them to your crew to help you in battle, and they give you some extra kind of little bonus triggers during the game. The hawks do. So animals get added to your crew. Emily mentioned the health tokens. So now your crew can take wounds. Those were not in the original Raiders of the North Sea, but it was in one of the expansions. And they brought in the kumis, which was mead originally in the Viking
liquid courage.
Liquid courage. Yeah, it was mead in the expansion when it was Vikings themed. So you got the liquid courage, which you can take and add to your dice roll when you go raiding. The animals and the health tokens are the 3 big things. So not enough to make it like super crunchy, but enough to make it a little bit more engaging than just a really basic worker placement, which is part of why I like it a lot. It added just a little bit more.
Yeah. As you are recruiting different members to your war party throughout the game, am I getting the right term there? War party? Was there another phrase for that?
I'm not sure if it is a war party.
Clan is not the right word.
That doesn't sound right either.
I'm not sure what they call it in the game. I mean, because you have a leader for your
hero.
Your crew.
War,
yeah, you have a
war band. War band is ethnos.
Military.
I don't remember what term it was.
Yeah, I can't remember.
At any rate, you have a maximum of 5 people you can recruit to your team, one of them being your leader. Each of those people gives you a unique bonus or special power throughout the game that you can utilize as well. That's a big factor in the game. It was crew?
Yep.
Okay. That's a big factor. And one of the things we do to start this game out is you have a leader and 1 crew member stuck together in a pairing that we do a reverse snake draft from whoever's going first to figure out who you've got as your starting team. There was a really powerful card out there at the start of the game that I looked at and went, I want that, but I'm picking dead last. There's no way that I'm getting that card. Why did you guys leave that to me?
Because I don't know what I was doing. I was just about to talk about this. Like, this is a game where I felt like I had to play it to understand it. Like, I was going through thinking about our experience, and it's like, yeah, knowing what I know about the game now, I would not have picked the leader that I had picked, just because I would have done a different strategy.
Yeah.
Similar thing with like the crew. The crew have these benefits on it, and if the benefit is like on the left side, that's kind of like the ongoing benefit you get every time you raid, and the benefit on the right hand benefit is if you take one of the actions in the town, and that's like a one-time thing. And James said it and I had forgotten it, and so I wanted to use like one of those one-time benefits while the crew was like in my employ, and I was like, what do you mean I can't use it? It was like my strategy was kind of based on that. And so it's one of those, like, knowing that like those mistakes that I made, I would have played the game differently.
Yeah.
So, JK, I'll speak to your question specifically. I saw the leader that you ended up taking, and I realized, like, hey, that seems pretty interesting. But I also felt like it would give me too many different things to think about, because basically he just got the royal sampler.
The leader I chose, there's basically 4 commodities that are available throughout the game that you need to collect to go on raids. And when you activate this leader, you get one of each.
Mm-hmm. The leader I ended up taking had the ability to put crew members into play out of turn. And so I thought that would be a good baseline for my strategy. Spoiler, it wasn't. But I did see that leader on the board, and I thought that they were very interesting and was not surprised by the outcome.
Well, I skipped it because I saw a pairing out there where the leader and the crew member work together really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I saw that before I saw your card, And I just kind of stopped there. I didn't keep looking at all of them. And I was like, oh, there's a pairing that actually synergizes together. I want to grab that and see if I can make it work. And after you got yours and you activated it twice, after the second time, I was like,
oh no,
we're not going to win this game.
Yeah.
And I try to do some research on it to see if there's any reports of it being OP, because I'm not one of those people that wants to find an excuse to have lost. Mm-hmm. But man,
it very much was. And playing Raiders of the North Sea enough, I know that the early game is kind of bogged down by the getting all of the resources you need. It takes several turns before you really have enough to be able to even go out and raid the basic places. And I think I had that on the first turn.
Yeah. And to clarify for y'all listening, the way the game works is on your turn. Again, something that adds simplicity to it, not just the worker placement side of it, but on your turn, you're only doing one of two things. You are either staying in the village and doing worker placement things, or going raiding. And those are your two choices. If you go raiding, you're not thinking about the worker placement stuff. If you're going worker placement, you're not thinking about the raiding stuff outside of like looking at what resources you need, but they don't affect each other on your turn. So if I go raiding, all I'm doing is focusing on the raiding. It really simplifies your turn a lot. But whenever you do go raiding, there are easier and harder raid locations to get to, and you have to meet those requirements. So a certain amount of crew, 2, 3, 4, 5 crew members. You have to spend provisions to get there. So the harder ones are it's kind of like you're traveling farther. So you have to spend more provisions. But you need these resources every time you want to go raiding. And so the cadence of the game is usually you'll spend a little bit of time in the village with a couple of turns to get the resources you need. Then you spend your turn going raiding. Then you spend the next turn or two going back to the village, getting what you need, and then go out raiding again. But you're kind of going, you're returning home, then going out to raid, then returning home and going out to raid. And that's kind of the cadence. You're trying to get it to be where you can be efficient to where you don't have to spend too many turns at home in the village before you can go back out and raid, because that's where a lot of the victory points are.
Yeah.
But being able to get those resources so easily, I couldn't believe there was a card out there like that. It was it hurt to watch.
All right. Any final thoughts before we score Raiders of Scythia?
I really appreciate the fact that Mark was here that day and gave us some good advice about staying in your lane. Because once I had kind of figured out what my path was with this game, I followed his advice to the letter. I went after one singular goal and just kept hammering at it through the entire game. I'm
so glad you said that. Yeah, because you were definitely in the lane, because we had kind of talked about it after we had played. JK didn't go on very many quests. No. The rest of us did, and I tried to build up some synergy so that I could go raiding you did a lot of quests. You didn't do the raiding.
I basically let you guys do all of the raids and unlock all of the end game rewards. Yeah. And then stole them.
Yep. I mixed up my terms. But yeah, we did the rest of the raiding, and I was trying to build up my synergy so that it would be easier for me to raid in Persia. But that's where I was running into my own limitations, because it's like you have to build up a certain military strength to be able to go somewhere. You have to build up a certain, you might have to have certain resources to go somewhere. And it's like, I was having some trouble in the town.
Well, and my difficulty with the raids was some of the raids require a specific worker to go on the raids. And especially towards the end game, we're all eyeballing the same few raids, and it's not always possible to get the worker that you need to go on that raid.
Well, that was another missed rule that I had assumed instead of asked about, because I got asked about after I fell into the trap. But it's, you can take a worker and not do the action. So I would have foregone an action just so that I could have gotten one of those
appropriate color.
Yeah. And so that would have probably helped me raid, get at least a little bump in the victory points.
Yeah, that's definitely on me. I forgot to mention that rule.
And it happens. Yeah.
It's been so long since I played it. And it's one of those small things that you don't think about until it matters.
Yes.
And then it might be too late.
Because that's what, I feel like there are games where it's that restriction is built in for that kind of tension. Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, no, that just makes sense. And then JK asked about it later. I was like, I wish I had asked.
Yeah, but another thing that I like about the game is, to your point, JK, is there are multiple paths to victory points.
For sure.
I've played with, our game wasn't too far away from this, but I played another game where someone didn't do almost any raiding at all, and they found other paths to get the resources they need to complete the quests. So whenever a location gets raided, there are quest tiles that are underneath it that get flipped up and become available for anybody to then complete the quest. And that is a location in the village where you go to visit the village elder, and you can, all these quests just have different requirements. Turn in 4 silver, turn in 3 stone and 2 provision. They just have things that you need to turn in and spend, essentially. And if you can find a path to get the stuff that you need for the quests, you don't even have to raid. You can just get that stuff to get the quest victory points. What I ran into on our game is I got into a spot to where I wasn't really able to raid because I kept drawing cards that were all very low military power. And I kept trying to solve that, because when you to get the higher victory points, to make raiding worth it, yes, you get some benefits and resources and things, but you also get lots of victory points. But it's based on your military strength. And your military strength is based on your crew, and a few other factors. But your crew, you have strong and weak crew from 0 up to 5.
I think 5 was the biggest highest I saw.
And I had a hand of cards that I kept trying to build my crew that was 0 1s and 2s, 0 1s and 2s. Now discard cards, draw more cards, get 2 1s. Discard cards, draw more cards, get a 0 and a 2. And I just couldn't for the life of me get any strong crew to help me go raiding. So I was like, okay, I got to pivot. I got to go get some quests. But then what I was getting wasn't allowing me to get the quests either. And I got stuck in this weird spot where I just couldn't do anything. And then you're over there just tapping your hero over and over and over and over again, getting all the resources. I mean, I knew I had lost the game, halfway through, just because of that. I couldn't make anything work with the cards I was being given. And that is something that I'd never experienced in the game before. I mean, usually if you draw enough cards, you're going to get something that you can use, because there's some fun things in the game where, like, even your crew dying in battle can be beneficial sometimes, and there's ways to manipulate bad card draws. But I wasn't able to that game.
That's how I feel in every Grand Austria game I've ever played. It's just, I don't know how, but it's halfway through the game. I'm like, I have nothing.
Were there any really negative feelings on the game?
I mean, my negative feeling was just that I got put into that spot where
you got stuck.
Where I got stuck. I just felt like it wasn't playing the game bad. It just I wasn't getting the stuff that I needed to even be able to pivot to a strategy B instead. So I felt a little stuck there.
Yeah.
I think I have a similar train of thought of I either need 2 or 3 games of it to feel like I really know the game. And it's weird. Like, of all the Game of the Shows we've had so far, I feel like I've had an opinion pretty early on. This one, I'm still a little like, I don't know. And like what James is talking about, like, yeah, some of the leaders do seem kind of like unbalanced, but I also don't know if that's because of just unfamiliarity with all of it. There's
I
so
felt
many.
like me, yours, and Dwayne's were all powers that we intermittently were able to use in the strategy somehow, but it wasn't something that we were using every single turn. It was an obvious core of our strategy. Yeah. It was just there if we needed it. And I think that's how they're supposed to be designed. And then JK was over there just tapping away.
Collecting everything on the planet.
It does feel like maybe that one was put out there to play test and they forgot to pull it out of the final release. But I will say this. This was my first play of it. I am not familiar with the finer aspects of the game. And, after a few more plays, it could turn out that it's a totally cromulent leader power.
I enjoyed it. Do we want to give ratings on this?
Yeah, let's go ahead and go through it.
Okay. I enjoyed it. I don't find any fault in the game, anything wrong with it. I will say that I already own and have played Raiders of the North Sea multiple times. I didn't get so much into the hawks and horses. That was never a part of my game strategy, so I really didn't have a chance to evaluate how well that changes the game. I would play this again. I'm probably not going to buy it because it would replicate something that's already in my collection. So this is a pass for me.
Otherwise known as a
traded away.
Traded away.
Thank you.
JK says traded away.
Well, it makes sense if you already have essentially the
Mm-hmm.
game. So, for me, I've liked Raiders for a long time. It's kind of it's been a go-to easy worker placement kind of experience. There's a few out there now that also other games that you can look at Stone Age as one of those. And there are some other worker placement games that are coming out that kind of fit a similar space. But the take a worker or place a worker, take a worker, the idea that the turns are very just simple. You're either doing this or that. You're in the village or you're going and raiding, building the crew. Even though after our play, I was feeling some mixed emotions about it, actually. But the more I think about it, I think it was just that play. I think I had a bad play of it because every other play I've had of it is really good. So for me, it's going to be a keep it to play. Nothing else in my collection kind of fits this particular niche of worker placement, and I want to have it to fall back on whenever needed.
I feel like I'm in a similar boat to JK. I remember playing. Do I remember playing? It was either Paladins or Viscounts from this series that was just more exciting to me in the first playthrough. And it's like, I remember like I didn't win that one. Like I don't remember why it was so exciting, but I had more strong emotions about that. Whereas this one I'm feeling just more lukewarm, more like, I don't know. Like I would definitely play it again, but I would not fight to keep it in my collection. So I'm going to trade it away.
So as much as I liked the idea of the worker placement mechanic in this game, the other side of that coin is I found the raids pretty boring. I just did not, that aspect of the game didn't interest me, and I think part of it is I was doing a lot of comparison in my head between this and Champions of Midgard. And Champions of Midgard just has such a better battle raid mechanic.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I, because that is in my collection.
Maybe you like Vikings more.
Maybe that's it. But because that's in my collection, this would be a traded away for me.
Wow, that's weird because this was actually a fun game, but it's a 1 out of 4 for us. That's wild.
Yeah, that being said, I would play this again. If it came down to it, like if it's in my collection and I'm like, okay, I could either offer Champions of Midgard or Raiders, I'm going to offer Champions of Midgard.
If it's a choice between the two, I would rather play Champions of Midgard. But that's just and you're always going to play that with the expansions, right? You always play with both expansions.
Yeah,
Champions.
I learned it with the expansions. When I tried to teach my family, I backed off the expansions, and that was a mistake. Go ahead and throw it all in there because it is a much better game with all the expansions.
It's just more of a commitment.
Yes,
right?
that's true.
I'd rather play that. This is just a simpler, easier game to get to the table. If I have an hour and a half to 2 hours, right, we can squeeze in this. Champions with all the expansions with the teach is a little bit longer. It's a little longer. So it just fills a different space is all. And I think that's why I'm going to keep it, just because it fills that smaller window.
Yeah.
Yep.
So spoilers on the scores here, guys. We kind of gave away some information here about how dominant I might have played this game. So I was the winner on this one, which means I get to pick our next game for the show.
What'd you bring us, JK?
So I've heard at least Dwayne and James mention recently, either privately or publicly, that they would love to get this game back on the table at some point. Emily, I don't think you're familiar with it, but I think we can teach this to you pretty quickly and get a good game in tonight. Let's put on some fancy clothes and break out the
I know where we're doing. Fantastic. I am very much
played this game with you, JK.
Okay. All right.
That's exciting.
So, I think we've talked enough about games that it's time to play a game on air. No, not a board game, a game about board games. This week, I have the game for us to play.
Oh, boy.
Oh, joy.
And welcome back, Daryl. Welcome to the Game Challenge.
Hello, thanks for having me again.
Good luck. Hope you survive the experience.
Good luck, have fun.
All right, so today I have brought a game that I am calling I Am Hosting a Board Game Night. In light of our conversation with Daryl, I have decided I want to dip my toes in the water of board game hosting.
That title is way too long.
It's really long.
Can we shorten it a bit?
Sure.
Okay.
Did you bring burritos?
I no.
Immediate fail, not interested.
Yeah, this event theme has
Game night sucks.
it's not catchy.
But good thing the game challenge title is not the most important part of this game challenge. The most important part is
The friends we made along the way.
sure.
Okay.
But also, I want my guests to bring a game that fits the theme. We're going to go around the room, and each of you are going to take turns telling me what game you're bringing, and I'll respond by telling you whether or not you're invited.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm with you.
That's aggressive.
I'm with you.
Ooh.
It's like the MySpace 8 friends. You can move people around.
So we don't know the theme up front.
Correct. Your
Okay.
mission is to figure out what the theme of my board game night is.
Based on the games.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the games that she's not taking.
Or the ones
Oh.
that she is taking.
Yeah,
Both could
yeah.
provide a
Ooh.
lot of information.
Okay.
Because of the nature of this theme, I'm going to be looking up as quickly as I can on Board Game Geek. Hopefully we don't have too much awkward silence for you to shorten, but I'll try to be fast.
Okay.
All right. Dwayne, what game are you bringing to my board game party?
Risk 2210.
All right. You are not invited.
That checks out every time I offer to bring that game.
I am bringing Clank in Space.
All right. JK is invited.
I will bring Sagrada.
Sagrada. I was just looking at this earlier. All right. Daryl is not invited to my board game night.
I am bringing Terraforming Mars.
If my theory's true, you might let him in on this one.
Yeah, me too. But she would know the answer to that already. She would.
Yeah, I think so too. I've got an idea.
James is not invited to my board game party.
Okay.
Ooh.
Do we get another try or is that it?
Mhm.
Oh, good. I'm bringing Marvel Legendary.
You are invited to my board
Yeah.
game party.
Can I bring another game?
Yeah, go for it, JK.
I'll bring Dominion.
You are invited to my board game
Okay.
party.
I think I see a trend forming. I just lost the name of the game I had in mind. Well, Dwayne's got a dictionary. I'm sure he has it here somewhere.
Dictionary.
I will bring Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Do not think you are invited, but let me double
Let me check the
check.
guest list again.
What if you get so awkward? Like you might be invited. Let me double check the name list.
No, I told you we're with the band.
I
I'm
hate being
sorry,
wrong.
we are full.
But yes, you are not invited. I'm sorry to say that.
That doesn't surprise me after the lead up to that.
I think I'm feeling like I want to bring Dune Imperium to your party.
Dune Imperium, you are invited to my party.
Yay. Can we identify what this party is?
Hold on. I want to give Daryl another chance.
Okay.
Oh God, way to put me on blast here.
I know.
So we've got
I brought Clank in Space
Clank in
and
Space
Dominion.
and Dominion.
I brought Marvel Legendary.
Marvel Legendary.
Dune Imperium.
See, I've never played Dune Imperium. It's been so long since I played Dominion. I'm struggling to piece it together.
Oh, Dominion's your best bet.
Mhm.
Clank in Space. Clank Catacombs.
You played Clank.
Clank.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Anything in Clank?
I haven't played Dominion, so I'm struggling to see.
Do we need a hint?
Yeah, I'm on the struggle bus
It
here.
involves-
Okay, let's give you a hint. We have already built a good roster of games.
Nice. That was a good hint.
If you want to play one out on the back deck, you got to bring your own.
Oh, you were just talking about that game too.
Gosh.
I'm going to throw in the towel here. I'm drawing an absolute blank.
Oh, no. All right. What's the rule, JK?
We have to bring deck
Deck
building
building.
games.
You do. Yes.
James Terraforming Mars helped me out a lot because
Yeah.
I was down to two ideas, and when that wasn't allowed, I was like, I think I got
We just had this conversation last week, too, because, like, technically it's hand management is the mechanic in Terraforming Mars.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I'm like, I'm kind of like building a deck, but you're not. Like, you're just like drafting cards
Does
to eventually
the fact
play.
that you had to look it
I
up.
saw you just look it up. Does BGG consider it tableau building and not deck building?
Hand management.
Just hand management.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like with every game, there's like 5 to 10 mechanics involved.
I think this feels a little bit like our
Ladder climbing.
our trick taking versus ladder climbing discussion. But I think, there are a lot of games where you build a deck in the sense that you start with nothing and you gain cards and you are building a deck. But that's not really what a deck builder means.
Right.
To me, a
Right.
deck builder means all the players are starting with probably the same set of 5 or 10 or 12 cards, and they're going through the motions of taking from a public area the cards that they want to have in their deck.
And what you add or remove from that hand is what drives it.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming to my board game night party. Daryl, maybe next time.
I'll be outside crying in the front yard.
Table's full. Sorry.
Like, I'll be like staring awkwardly in the window, like
Googling.
that could be me in there.
If only I brought the right game. At least I have my burrito.
There you go.
You know, I'm actually not sad missing the party now that I have a burrito in this story. So
Thanks for playing, y'all.
Thanks.
Thanks,
thank
Emily.
you.
Is there a game you'd like us to play? Have thoughts about Rococo or other games we've discussed? Shoot us an email for a chance to have your comments read on a future episode. That email address is pod@gleefulmeeple.com.
Cool. Are we done for the night?
I think that should just
Think we
about
did it.
wrap it all up.
All right. Thanks, guys. Before we go away, let's thank our sponsors for the week. It's the Musicland Group. The Musicland Group, fine retail provider. Musicland, Sam Goody, Licorice Pizza, and their big box store Media Play.
Licorice pizza.
Whenever you want to buy music, you've got to have something tangible to hold on to. Go to one of those locations.
Hey, don't forget, what if I need other dead media like DVDs? Then I can go to
DVDs,
Suncoast
yes.
Video.
Oh, I forgot Suncoast Motion Picture Company. Yeah. Anyway, if you want to email the show, email us at pod@gleefulmeeple.com or follow us on Instagram at gleefulmeeplepod.
Until next time.
Bye, Gleeples.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
everyone.